Welcome to yet another inspiring episode at Changepreneurs podcast, where we bring conversations that spark change. I'm your host Priyanka, a passionpreneur, along with my co-host Inayat Segal, a life coach, and we are honored to have a truly inspiring guest with us today. Today's guest is not your textbook entrepreneur. He is a self-confessed dyslexic who didn't ace school, dropped out of college. He defied every conventional metric of success to build something extraordinary. Firebrand Labs. 16 years in, he's still obsessed with getting things done really well. And if that wasn't enough, he and his wife Deepa also co-founded the All School, an experiential learning school. This is a story of grit, hustle, and heart. Get ready to dive into the journey of someone truly fabulous, brilliant, and lovable. Welcome, Arvind.
Thank you. That's a lovely introduction, and honored to truly be honored to be here. Uh, I'm here to share some of the learnings that I've had as a human being and as an entrepreneur. Happy to share that with you and the audiences. So, all yours.
Thank you so much, Arvind. I think uh, I think let's get started from the beginning, right? Why don't you tell our audience how was your childhood? How was it, growing up dyslexic? Your learnings and what impact it had on your life.
Got it. So we're talking about. So I was born in the late 70s, and this was a time when possibly there were learning disabilities, but they were not labeled, they were not made aware.
Hmm.
And most of all, the acceptance was near to zero, or the acceptance was, if I can say, had a negative impact in terms of how people perceived these things,
Hmm.
right? So, one, I was born into a joint family in Bangalore, a, a conservative Tamil Brahmin family, and my grandfather was a self-taught engineer. He used to work for different organizations. So were my father and my uncles. So came from a family of people for whom math and science was their surname. And then here I was, which I discovered later that both math and science were not subjects that I could get good at. So the first story of my learning disability happened when I was young, way too young, maybe 2.5 years, when I first started writing ABCD. And I was told that the first time I wrote ABCD, it was from right to left, and the words were the alphabets were flipped, which means when I finished writing it, somebody had to flip it on a mirror, and that is when it read correctly. Pretty much like how the Arabic language is written, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was when my pediatrician or family doctor advised. I am a left-hander. So that didn't go down very well in the family. I was not the first left-hander, the third left-hander. My aunt was a left-hander, my uncle was a left-hander, and
Mm-hmm.
here is the first grandson who also ended up being a left-hander. So it didn't go down very well with my grandmother. So on the family front, they all knew that I was, if I can use a very strong word, special child, right? Uh, but nobody went beyond that. Nobody inquired. Nobody went to a specialist. We didn't have specialists there. The family doctor was the be all and end all for all of our problems. He would also play the role of a family counselor when
Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
issues, right? So
Yeah.
there was no specialist back then. So
Right.
he said, "Yeah, I mean, he's a left-hander. Don't try and change him." So my grandmother actually, at one point of time, wanted to change me to become a right-hander. So that was the only thing he said. If you do that, you will end up losing him because his brain is wired differently, and you're trying to change that. That will impact him. So she didn't stop there. Grandmothers, you see, so they had to
Yeah.
command. So she made sure that I learned how to eat with my hands, with my right. So even today,
Mm.
though it comes naturally for me to eat with my right, The moment I pick up a spoon or a fork, it's my left hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is where it all began. But until I saw the film Tare Zameen Par, when I was watching the film, there was a song that was going on, and the child is looking at the board, and all the characters are flying. That is
Yeah.
when I jumped out of my seat and I said, "This used to happen to me in school," and that was a moment of realization. Uh, but that was in my 30s, and I went through my 30-year journey not
Mm.
knowing that I had a learning issue. Up
Correct.
until then, I was very proudly wearing, a cap that said, "I am a rebel. I didn't do well in school. I gave a tough time to my teachers." Little did I really know that I just had a learning disability, and I was absolutely fine otherwise. If there was an intervention back then, it would have taken my life very differently. Maybe the intervention didn't happen because today, uh, you know, four and a half decades later, here I am telling you my story. So maybe this had to happen, and therefore the intervention back then didn't happen. That is how I'm reflecting, the past, right? But it wasn't easy. The very fact that I recognized that I was differently wired with my learning abilities. The moment I realized, it was like a big relief. It was a revelation. It made
Mm.
me come to terms with. I was like, oh, now I know why I did what I did, and now I know why I did what I didn't do. So
Yeah.
until then, I was ashamed of, how can I not solve a math problem? Everybody gets good at it. How come I'm not good at it? Or I remember once in chemistry, I scored zero because the chemical equations just didn't go into my head.
Mm.
So, but today, I mean, not everyone needs to learn math and science. That was so when I have a son and daughter, and when my son came up after finishing his 10th, and he was okay until 10th standard, and then he said, "Hey, you know what? Is it okay if I drop math and science from my life? Are you guys okay with it?" I jumped. I said, "Whoever needs to, nobody's going to force you to do it, right?"
Yeah.
So the moment he dropped, up until 10th, he was okay. 11th onwards, he started becoming academically superior.
Mm.
Fast forward 2 years, 12th standard, he scored in his 90s with his public exam. And one subject, he even hit 100% political
Wow.
science.
Wow.
So that is the kind of impact that you can have if you are open enough and if you embrace, other subjects. So yeah, so that's on my journey.
Quite.
Two
Childhood.
things are coming out for me very strongly in what Arvind, you've shared right now is how important, parents' support is in a child's journey and growth, and how certain revelations can really change the trajectory of your life.
Yes.
So, I'm just curious to know, so when you discovered that you did have a learning disability, and what changed for you? How did your life change? How did you change?
So imagine 30 years you are living with a disability and you don't even know about it, right?
Mm.
Because of which you took certain decisions. Me not pursuing my academic life, uh, in hindsight, I would have been very good in a creative school. I would have landed in courses where I could have excelled. I could have become, somebody in an Ogilvy or a JWT, or, gotten to do the right things.
Mm.
Uh, Endless possibilities. But that was not the case. Instead, I was caught up in my own mind. I'm not a graduate. I don't have too many opportunities. What should I do? Right. So instead of exploring infinite creative possibilities, here I was living with survival questions on a daily basis. So that was reality for me. And one of the things that happened was my own decision to get married and settle down early. So we had a
Mhm.
sort of an early marriage as compared to
Mhm.
people. So 4 years after school, I was married, 20 to 23. Aryan, my son, was born immediately after that. So
Mm-hmm.
thanks to that life stage, that brought in a certain sense of responsibility in me. Up
Mm-hmm.
until then, I was more a vagabond. I said, yeah, I mean, if I don't like this job, to hell with it, I'll find something else. But I couldn't do that once I was a father, right? I had to be
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So the decisions that I took were towards stability, right? And I didn't have too many options either. So I still remember 2005, August 12th, the day our daughter was born. Uh, we were parents again for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it dawned into me that now is the time for me to do something on my own. Enough of, I was also termed a bad employee. Uh, why? Because of the same dyslexia issues. I would
Okay.
get bored. I wasn't detailed oriented. I was creatively doing very well for myself, but in
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
areas I was bad. So that is when I started asking, what can I do? Can I, take up assignments on my own? I seem to like some parts of what my work is offering. Can I go further down into it?
Mm-hmm.
So we all think that, starting the beginning is equally glamorous, like a garage, like a friend, like an economic time story. No, nothing of that sort. It was need based. Can I be on my own? How can I put money on the table? What can I do to be earning all by myself? What are the skills that I can offer to people and monetize them? So I started off as a freelancer, uh, doing presentations with Microsoft PowerPoint for my clients. MS Paint, MS Publish. I used to use them to create, internal posters, newsletters, and got the money going in. They were as low as 1,500 rupees, 2,500 rupees. Didn't really matter, but that got me the billing going.
Yeah.
Uh, it took us about 2 3 years for me to put together a team, but yeah, that's where we began. That's where we started.
So when you said while being so honest, I feel, I mean, I just want to say it out to all our listeners out there, right? As you rightly pointed out, it is always not about, the story starting in the garage. It could be as small as your earnings like 1,500 rupees, right? What I felt or what I feel when I talk to the young generations today, they want everything fast, everything, in
Mm-hmm.
4 digit, 6 digit salary, right? They don't understand the hustle that goes behind any successful venture. So I think when you are sharing these stories with our listeners, it is going to make a very big impact, and they can also sit down, reflect that it is okay to start small, right? And on a separate note altogether, from a marketeer to another marketeer, when you said right about getting newsletters done on MS Paint or Publish, I can imagine how tough it would have been, right? So I want to tell listeners again, please, it is one step at a time. It is a slow journey, but that takes you to the successful end, right? So just be
Yes,
patient and just be
yes,
there. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Arvind, for this
absolutely.
anecdotes.
Even though I'm curious to know, so the challenges that you faced with, your learning disabilities and with the societal pressure, family pressure, how could you channelize that and navigate to being an entrepreneur?
Hmm.
um, wasn't easy, and today we can sit and talk about it a lot more calmly.
Mm-hmm.
uh, it was Reality was very different, right? uh, Entrepreneurship requires a lot of uh, guts. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if
Yeah.
there is one, or the only ingredient that is needed is, you have to believe in yourself when nobody's believing in you. It takes you to, if I can say, it takes you into a dark space.
Mm-hmm.
It's a do or die situation. You have to do something, uh, and uh, and pray for miracle to happen, because you can only put in the effort. You can't control the outcome. You can't walk into a client meeting and say, I'm going to back this client, or you can't threaten the client and say, you jolly well give me the business. Right? It doesn't
Yeah.
work that.
Yeah.
Uh, so to answer your question, entrepreneurship as an opportunity happened because of many tiny steps that I took from the day I decided to be on my own up until me founding a team. In fact, we've spoken about this in the book, where when I decided to put together a team, we were 4 or 5 of us, and one person stayed back after a coffee shop meeting, and that person also quit later on. So I was
Mm.
back to square one, looking for a team, a lone wolf, uh, and by then I had even gotten a few clients.
Mhm.
So um, then I had to identify one more freelancer because I couldn't afford paying them a salary. It was scary. The first salary that I paid, Priyanka knows him very well. He's worked with her, and he's my partner, Arun. Right? Arun came on board as a freelancer. Arun used to work for a BPO, and he would work during the day. I would handle clients during the day, and in the nights we would catch up. And it took me about 4 or 5 months. I don't remember now, but there was a time, there was a moment where I said, Arun, you know what? I'm bagging this client as a retainer. Now tell me how much salary you're earning. And he put out a number. I said, how much money do you want? Right? I know you may want to earn a little more,
More, yeah.
uh, but now I'm confident because whatever the retainer is coming our way, it will feed your salary. So
Mm.
that is how slowly and step by step we built what we have today. 16 years on, more than 150, 200 customers, lots of work that we've done, but it just happened with these simple steps. They were not as simple back then, but today we can talk about it in an easy way. But every day was dark territory for us.
So you kept saying, Arvind, that you get bored, right? How do you manage your team? I'm like really, really intrigued to know, right? I'm sure they know by now that boss gets bored. So how does that come along, right? And 16 years in the journey while getting bored and while transitioning again, restarting again. So how does that happen?
So I'll take the metaphor of imagine
Mm-hmm.
um, two sets of people.
Right.
Kapil Dev winning the 1983 World Cup
Okay.
and Dhoni winning the 2011, 11, 12.
I'm starting to like this analogy.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
right. Uh, First is in a small business like ours. We don't have the luxury of and I say this as a luxury because we
Mm-hmm.
can't retain talent for a long period of time. The
Mm.
way employees view us is that of a this is a small opportunity. I want to go after a bigger opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Except for me and Arun, the entire team has changed over the last 16 years. So every time we work with a team, so pre-covid we had a team. During covid, when we were going through the covid period, there was a there were the same set of people, but their behaviors were very different.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Post covid, now we have a different team, right? So it's never a dull day for us at work. That's one side of it from a team point of view. The other side, every day the client is throwing a new challenge at you, and your job, your goal, you're paid to solve those problems. So I get bored when the same problem comes to me again and again. Now if that
Okay.
happens, I know that it's a person who's not doing their job, right?
Right.
And therefore we can take a decision. But
Mm-hmm.
it's never the same problem that you solve twice. And if you're solving the same problem again and again, you're not solving it at all,
Got
right?
it.
So that keeps
Wow.
us going.
I think you made a very strong statement here. If the problem is occurring again and again, the problem is not solved. I think it is so prevalent in our own lives as well.
Yes,
Like if you have to address a concern or we're trying to improve on a personal issue or
yes,
something, if it's reoccurring again and again in a circular manner, I think you've not addressed the problem.
absolutely,
It's something
absolutely.
that I will definitely take a note of. Priyanka, you were saying something.
No, no, let Arvind answer this. Like, how would you want to address this? Like how somebody, going through a similar problem, how do they do things differently? Maybe we can, it will be an interesting take to for our listeners too, right?
Yeah. So I'll maybe take a minute or two here. Um, Small company, we don't grow like the way any investor will want us to grow. So we never
Mm-hmm.
became somebody's destination investment company. So we had a peculiar problem, and you can relate to it, because many times when we work with large organizations, payment cycles are
Yeah.
haywire.
Mm.
Right, even though we have a contract, even though the client will have their processes in place, you'll never get the it's not like a tailor where you go take a service and the very next minute you make a payment, or a restaurant, right? It doesn't work that way in corporate world. So we had cash flow issues, and we were finding it difficult whether the client paid us or not. We had to pay our rent, we had to pay our electricity,
Mm.
we had to pay our salaries, right? So this was a problem. And one fine day I said I have to address this. And it didn't happen overnight, but in a short span of time we created enough reserve so that there was always 1 month's money available in the system. So,
Mm.
and this is something off the context, but I just want to tell you here that even small companies can be disciplined. We are as good as a multinational. We pay our salaries on the 28th, or by the 30th of every month.
Mm-hmm.
People have never followed up with us saying, asking for their salaries. No vendor payments have been defaulted. No GST bills due. Everything happens on time. So, there was a problem, and the problem pointed us to better financial discipline, better planning, better cash flow
Mm-hmm.
management, and we nailed it. We said this
Yeah.
is how we'll do, and we got the job done. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, during our previous conversation, you also talked about like how dyslexic people and this it can act as a character which people put in their resume to forward and to get creative jobs. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, yes, yes. If you get onto LinkedIn, there is a movement called Made by Dyslexia. And this
Mm-hmm.
movement is supported by Richard Branson himself, the founder of Virgin Group, who himself is dyslexic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if you read, Losing My Virginity, his autobiography, he's spoken in length about it. And today they've made so much progress that LinkedIn recognizes dyslexic thinking as a skill that you can add to your resume. And
Right.
today there are organizations that are matured, that understands your special skills
Mm-hmm.
as a person with dyslexic abilities. It's not even a challenge, it's not even a
Mm.
setback, right?
Yeah.
You're
Mm-hmm.
in an advantageous position.
Mm-hmm.
And you could go after jobs that require play of words,
Mm-hmm.
linguistics, for example. uh,
Okay.
I take on today. I tell people the only subject that I scored that didn't have a red mark was English, and that is the only thing that is feeding me today. So there is a certain love of English as a language for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shapes, colors, even shapes. For example, in school, you won't believe it. Half the, I mean, all of us have gone through this. Half your marks for mathematics will come from geometry. The other half will come from algebra. Algebra,
Algebra.
I will hardly score single digits. Geometry, I will always be, 100 on 100, because
Mm-hmm.
shapes and patterns we can relate better, right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
if you deep dive into dyslexia per se, you could actually identify areas and point people to a totally different career altogether.
So, if I may say, if my understanding is correct, so that having being in a condition, being in a dyslexic condition, also gives you an edge to identify shapes, colors, as you mentioned, linguistics better,
Patterns,
pattern
emotions.
better.
Yes, which is why if you see around the world, some of the most creative people on the planet are dyslexic.
Okay.
From painters to actors to film directors. You'll be amazed at the kind of list dyslexic people have with them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's quite an interesting thing to know about.
Yes, it
And
is.
I think what our listeners are also going to appreciate, Arvind coming out and talking about, how he can, somebody with this condition can empower it to be more creative, to go all out, right? The conditions are not similar now, the situations, I would say, right? Back then, it was a
Mm-hmm,
tough situation for you, Arvind, because you
Yeah.
didn't know, you said, right? Till your 30s, you were not aware of what you were going through. But I think times have changed now.
Yes.
Thanks to guys like you, Richard, or LinkedIn as well. And about MNCs, I can very well say I remember during my Microsoft days, the person who used to sit next to my desk, right, was not able to see. He was a blind guy, and Microsoft gave an opportunity to him. So, right. So I think times have changed. It is everyone out there, go find out what is stopping you to make something big happen for yourself, right? And around
Yes.
people around you. So
Yes.
that is very interesting. And thank you so much, Arvind, for saying it out loud and with true honesty,
mm-hmm.
Many people can't accept it as well, and that you're doing it on a public platform. So I'm very grateful for this episode and for this
What
talk
I
as
am
well.
doing is hardly anything, because today you are also, thanks to social media,
Yeah,
one of the very few advantages of social media is your ability to express yourself, right? And there
very.
Yeah.
are so many of us who have much worse stories. There are
Hmm.
people who have been sexually abused coming out in the open and talking about it. There have been women who are rape survivors coming out and talking about it.
Yeah.
Mine is just a learning disability, so I won't even call that I'm doing anything bold and brave. But to the same listeners, one area that you didn't touch upon, which I'd like to talk about, is
Hmm.
parents, right? If you identify a child who's slightly or who's differently abled, not necessarily physically, even mentally, right? You have to observe. You can't just say, I want my son to pursue math and science, right? There is more to life than STEM, right? And if a child is inclined towards STEM, you don't, trust me, you don't need to push it hard. The child
Yeah.
will score very well. Parents
Mm-hmm.
have no role to play, but parents have to start accepting and start wearing their children's flaws onto them and saying, yes, my child is slightly different, so what? Right?
Yeah.
That is what is critical. As adults, we'll all cope. We will have our own coping mechanisms, but as children, do we enable them and tell them, go back and say, it's absolutely fine if you scored zero in math? I did that with my children. When
Hmm.
when Aryan came and had that conversation with me, I said, "Hey, I mean, you have me. I am an example of someone who didn't pursue math and science. So what the heck? Come on, give it a shot." And today there are more subjects that people can learn, right?
Hmm.
NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling, which is an area where my wife does work. There are more than 25 different subjects beyond math and science
Hmm.
that a
Mm-hmm.
child can pursue. Many of us are not even aware of it.
That's true. That's true. Many of us are not even aware of it because I think as a society we are so conservative and it takes time to break the bounds. And I think
But
the
I'm happy that it's
changes
happening. It's
Yeah.
happening
exactly,
in leaps
exactly
and bounds.
in leaps
Matter
and
of time.
bounds.
And today I will tell
Mm-hmm.
you this: the conventional walls that have been built around conventional education system are starting to break down. And in the next 50
Mm-hmm.
years, we will not see any school, any college. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we may not be there in our lifetime, but the next generation will get to
Hmm.
experience that.
Wow.
Talking about education, we also know that you and your wife, you guys run a school called the All School. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Okay, so she'll hate it if I use the word even school. So it's essentially a learning center for
Okay,
Okay.
homeschoolers. Uh,
okay.
and when I was in school, I was very familiar with NIOS because I went to a school where some of my classmates or my juniors, they either pursued art. So somebody was into dance, Bharatanatyam. Somebody was into, a very dear friend of mine was very good, was a sitarist, and he was taught at home. So most of the times these guys were out performing, and they would hardly get attendance, or they would hardly get any support from school. So they
Mm-hmm.
were directed towards NIOS. So I knew that homeschooling was there. And something very interesting happened. My classmate, she was a school topper, finished her BSc Math, did her post graduation from IIT Madras, where she met her husband, who did double PhD, if I'm right. And they both homeschooled their children. And
Okay.
yeah, they were here in India, and then they went to the US. They came back. Um, the children have never been to school, so I was like, first bencher, first ranker doesn't believe in sending their child to school. There is something in it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Someone who fared very well. The mother is an IIT product. The father is a PhD, right? I think the father did his PhD from MIT, right? So
Wow.
mecca of education, and here they are homeschooling. One of my first less exposure was, I don't know if you know, Vikram Sarabhai's children were homeschooled.
Oh,
Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't know. I
um,
didn't know.
Great sscientist, famous scientist.
Yeah.
Okay, his
Mm-hmm.
daughter is Malika Sarabhai. She was one of the first homeschoolers from India. Up until 10th, her aunt homeschooled her, and she
Mm-hmm.
went on to cracking IMA before she
Wow.
went to the US, right? So there have been validations, but we didn't look at it because our parents and our family and societal conditioning is that if you don't send your child to school, it is not schooling. So it was these were the foundations of why we wanted to provide an alternative way to solving education system. If you hit the gym this morning, I observed uh, my coach was standing and he was giving different exercises to different people based on their body abilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is for adults.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine going back to a classroom setup, all children, same lesson, same teacher, same syllabus.
Mm.
Somewhere we got it wrong, right? So you can't have the same one formula, one size does not fit all in the education system. So that is when we decided to solve that problem, and we are solving that in a very small way. Again, we are self-funded. Um, we don't have big bank accounts, but we said we will do this. So for Deepa, the problem, and I can say this in so many words, she doesn't even look at it as a business. For her, this is a way of dealing with a purpose. She says, I want to be there for every child that either gets blacklisted or gets continuously labeled, because in a conventional school, the teachers are not equipped to handle people with learning issues,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
You are put in the backbench. You are made to go through many issues, which has a scar in your adulthood. Like I told you,
That's true. Mm.
I have not enjoyed my schooling days. I've always had to deal with, oh God, today again, once again, I have to stand outside the principal's office. Not that I would stop doing what I did, but you know I was notorious, or rather, the teachers didn't know how to deal with me. So there came the need for us to start the alt school. It's only in the name that we have the school. We have currently one center. Our second center is coming up. 150 kids. The first
Wow.
exam you will write is when you get to class 8. So what
Wow.
do children
Mm.
do until then? They are given life exposure. So
Mm-hmm.
tons and tons of field trips happen. A lot of workshops happen. Younger children are allowed to integrate with older children. So by doing that, some kids who are fast with learning, they catch up better. For the older ones, in management terms today, we sit inside air conditioned offices and talk about the need for building more empathy among our employees, right?
Mm.
And if that can happen at a school level, where older children are, they care for the younger ones, they look out for the younger ones,
Mm.
empathy gets ingrained into you, right? So
Mm.
there are multiple problems that we are trying to solve. She's also had two batches of successful class 12 pass outs. You get to choose your own subjects. You don't have to necessarily write your exams in one go. So this whole class 10 pressure or class 12 pressure is completely taken out. You can write three
Wow.
papers this term, this exam term, and the next two papers or three papers you can write 6 months later. Nobody
Mm.
is going to push.
Hats off
Mm.
to you and your wife Deepa, and many congratulations on the two students passing out recently. And in fact, I remember I was going through the Insta account of yours, the schools, right, the all school, and I was listening to one of the. There were many kids talking in that particular video, and one thing was very common when the kids were speaking. I think they were a bit senior, and they were like, "We are so grateful," and with so much of emotions in it, and we are so grateful and happy to see our younger ones succeeding, and so they are getting that kind of
Yeah.
confidence and the feeling of coaching the younger ones. So I
Yes.
can totally relate to what you're saying because I happen to visit the Insta
Yes.
account. So
Mhm.
congratulations once again to both
Thank
of
you.
you.
Thank you.
I think it's like building leaders,
Yeah.
sometime back we had the opportunity to interview another lady who introduced this concept of Bal Gurukul, in which the older kids they study and they teach the kids who are underprivileged and not able to go to school, and that's how their learning also strengthens and they also feel happy about it and feel fulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's such a beautiful ecosystem that is being created here. And congratulations to you guys that you're able to pull this off, and it's taking a great turn. And looking forward to know more about it. But before we go further, I want to know about your book that you and your team have written. I think Priyanka can talk a little bit more about that since she has happened to read it. I just got
Yeah.
introduced to it, and I will read it though. I'm
Okay.
very interested to read about it.
The interesting part, what Arvind and his team has done is it is a very short read. I mean, you can finish it in
Hmm.
45 minutes. So that's the beauty of it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
the book is called Fabulous, Brilliant, and Lovable. I think you guys have chosen it very wisely too, right? It also has FBL, which is Firebrand Labs, if I'm not wrong, right? Those three initials, Fabulous, Brilliant, and Lovable. So in that, like, I would like to ask you a specific question, right? I remember reading that you have worked with a lot of CEOs, right? And you played a role of executive assistants with them. Correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe, for all the entrepreneurs out there, the young aspirants, what were your teachings, during that phase of your life? I'm sorry, I'm taking you a little back again, but I think it will help the young generation.
Oh, yeah, sure, sure. I don't know if you noticed, Priyanka, now people don't even call it an executive assistant
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
Uh, you know, I sort of, my eyes widen up when I read somewhere executive assistant. Now people say founder's office, they say chief of staff, all
Yeah.
fancy things. But nobody knows that there's only a one line description, that you don't have a start time and an end time. And there are no
Hmm.
Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. Public holidays not applicable to me, to you, right?
Are
So
we
that's the
supposed to
job.
be blamed? But are the marketeers to be blamed for, for these fancy names, chief of the staff and stuff
No,
like
no,
that?
no, no, no. Let's blame it on social media.
All right. All right. Sorry,
So,
you were answering.
working with CEOs,
Mhm.
and if you get an opportunity, and this is something that I will tell myself,
Mhm.
my younger self, that if there are two paths, path one, more money, more fame,
Mhm.
more acceptance, and you work for a multinational. Path two, uncertain, less money. I will
Mhm.
go one step forward. No
No
money
money.
also, right? and you have to work with someone who's creating something, I will choose the second one. I will choose it earlier. I will stay in it longer, because the lessons you learn, the experiences that you gain, will only compound over a period of time after you've gone through that. So that is something that I want young listeners to be cognizant about. Happy to share details, but two three things came out very clearly. Point number one, you get to work with people who make the real decisions, and
Yeah.
you are part, or you are aiding them in taking those decisions. It is
Mm,
not like, never can we use words like, I will think about it and come back to you, or I will ask my boss and come back to you. You are representing your boss, the guy who's running the company. So you jolly well have an answer for your, at that point of time, right? Second, we spoke about problem solving in a different context. I think you also learn to become good at solving problems. You may have a resource crunch, you may have a financial crunch, you may have a operational issue. How do you go about fixing things, fixing problems?
mhm,
That is something that is invaluable as you work as an executive assistant. Third,
mhm,
you learn how to communicate crisply, clearly, and to the point, because CEOs don't have time, and neither do they have the patience. More importantly, they may have the time, but they don't have the patience to listen to your long Ramayana.
mm,
So early on in my life, I learned the art of putting things down on an A4 paper. My bosses used to say, if you can't communicate anything in one page, you can never communicate even in 100 pages or 1,000 pages.
Wow.
mm,
Similarly, in a presentation, don't have more than one sentence, right? That's your attention span. This has nothing to do with doom scrolling, but because back then, when you're working with creators, this is what is important. I'm sure things haven't changed today. If you see a Kunal Shah, or Dipinder Goyal, they all may have very limited patience to deal with you. So they want to empower you, and you do all the grunt work, you do all the hustling. But when you go and report, it has to be less than a minute, and you have to be to the point. So these were my top of head lessons. Of course, Excel skills and all of that is secondary, but
mhm.
something that's invaluable, something that I use even today, uh, are these lessons.
So what I'm curious to know, Arvind, is that if as from what I'm listening to your conversation, it's sounding very similar to the fact that could be applied a lot into marketing as well.
Yes.
So how has these learning helped you be the great marketer, and you're using it in your uh, company Firebrand Labs?
So it's not just marketing. There was a time, the younger self, I
Mm-hmm,
was so well equipped that I even ended up giving a good run for, and I'm not saying this because I want to brag about it, but people of my age who came from good institutions, who went through proper three years of graduation or their MBA, or 4 years of engineering and MBA, I would still give them a run for their money, because in terms of my competence, fundamentally
mm,
because the foundation was so well set.
Hmm.
Coming to marketing, uh, this is an area, we can talk at length about it, but I don't want to dwell too much about it. When you create a campaign, you know that somebody's attention span will be less. So how can
mm-hmm,
I communicate in 3 or 4 words? What are the words that can evoke a certain emotion? You can
mm,
say smile and be happy, or you can in the instead of smile and be happy, you can put out something else that is far more
mm,
powerful, that people can retain. For example, one of our recent campaigns we did, this is for an NGO that we work for, and they had a online campaign to raise funds. And
mm-hmm,
the campaign was very simple. This was for the American Indian audience. We said pizza or pie. So you can choose to eat
Wow.
a pizza or sponsor a
mm,
child's education. So the pie mark,
ah,
right? And also we could cut the pie. Pizza is also used to teach how you learn pie, right? So pizza or
mm-hmm,
pie, very simple. Anyone can remember this. So this is something that I also love doing because I love playing with words. Something
Mm.
that the lessons were learnt back then, applying every single day, even today. So yeah,
Very thoughtful of using those two words, right? I am really, really
Mhm.
impressed. Pizza or pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, going forward, so if anybody has to take like three learnings from your book or five, you can choose the number. What could that be? Like the top three or four learnings from your book?
takeaways, yes. One, it doesn't take too long for you to read the book. Priyanka has already said it. 45 minutes. Okay. You'll get to know us better. Okay. You want
Mm-hmm.
to work with us if you want to, give us work. It's a great introduction tool. That
Mm-hmm.
is one. Two is not all stories need to be glamorous or
Mm-hmm.
sexified. In the sense, up until the time we published our book, in my own mind I had this thing of, where will I write a book? I am not going to go into an IPO. I am not going to have $100 million. It's not about any of these things. Every single
Mm-hmm.
person, every human being has a story to tell,
Mm-hmm.
and you find a good storyteller to bring out
Mm-hmm.
your story out into the world, which is what we did, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
number two. Number three and four, slightly selfish reasons. One, we stopped long ago. We stopped doing client pitches. So in the marketing
Mm-hmm.
space, Priyanka will know that even before. So this is like a swayamvar that happens. Yeah, where you have to, you'll have to stand in front of an audience. You don't know the audience don't know you, but you'll have to do all the natak bandi, right? And you'll have to present your ideas as if you've worked with that brand, as if you know their entire strategy, as if you know all their internal information. You will have to basically hard sell yourself, saying, hire me, hire us, give us more business. So we moved away from that a long time ago. So now we have conversations, and up until such a time that there is a certain clarity on the conversations, we don't even, agree to send a proposal. So instead of, making a pitch, I politely send them a link, and say, hey, if you want to have this conversation, I encourage you to, invest 45 minutes, 60 minutes, which you would have anyway done if I have to make a pitch to you. Read the
Mm-hmm.
book, and come back and tell me what you think. Um, so this is a great marketing tool for us from that point of view. The other
Mm-hmm.
side of the marketing tool is also, we use this as a small organization. We don't have the luxury to hire high profile people or put out a LinkedIn campaign and hire, hundreds of get hundreds of resumes and shortlist them. So we use this also as a tool to tell a potential employee that this is what our 14 years have been. Get to
Mm-hmm.
know us better even before you want to even tell me whether you want to work with me or not. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the other takeaway to it. But for many people, like for example, my own parents, my mom was like, "Oh, this is what you do, is it? I didn't even know." So a lot of people who are closer to you, you
Mm-hmm.
take it for granted that they know what you're doing, but they know nothing
Yeah.
about it. So when they read it, they're like, "Yeah, this guy is on to something. I read the book. I felt good." So they get to know you better. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Arvind, I mean, first of all, I want to apologize to all Punekars before I pass the next, a
okay,
comment or a statement. When you said, right, you talked about Swayamvar, you said that, you give them this 45 minutes question answers or whatever, your format, right, and a book to read. And whoever are honest or whoever are really, into it will come to
yeah,
you, and then you have a business with them or you have an
yes,
engagement with them. I
yes,
remembered, right, when I moved to Pune first time in 2017, most of the Punekars, what they do is they shut their shops, right, between 1 to 4. You
okay,
stand outside their shop, even if the guys are sitting inside, you're not entertained in, right? They will
right,
take their break of 1 to 4. So that way they are
right,
very, clear headed.
right,
They know
right,
even if the customer is waiting outside, it is our me time. We are going to take a break and you come back at 4, right? So
right.
I think that really worked well for them, right? Uh, there are case studies on Chitare Bandhu. Chitare Bandhu is a famous shop in Pune, right? I'm sure you must have heard about them, right? It's a big,
I'm a
big brand.
foodie.
Okay, so you know already, right? So I remember this incident of where, we were standing outside the Chitai Bandhu shop and the guy was just not ready to open it for us or not even willing to entertain us. So I think that works, right? That works for the serious buyers or the serious customers who really want to engage you for the value that you bring on board. So again, this is a
Mm-hmm.
lesson. Like, we are taking it so lightheartedly or, we are taking it so jokingly, but it makes sense. This is a lesson, I think, which will not be taught in a
Creating your own value. Mm-hmm.
management school, right? Creating your own
Mm-hmm.
value,
Mm-hmm.
as Inayat said. So lovely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really finding it very exciting and interesting. Thank you.
But Arvind, what I'm curious to know, as you said that there was a second selfish reason, how did that work out for you in hiring employees? Was it any difference? Did you get quality employees? Did you get long-standing employees? Did that work in your favor?
So, two things
Mm-hmm.
also contribute to this. One is, who do you want to hire, right? It's more a employer question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I Today we've come to a stage where we are a little matured. I won't say we are very matured, a little matured when it comes to whom we want to hire. So we're not necessarily for serious roles, at least. I'm talking to a friend of mine to come and drive the entire delivery piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have known, like Priyanka, I have known him and his wife for over a decade. And I was talking to his wife about taking a plunge and coming and joining me.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, one honest conversation, she got an opportunity and she said, "What should I do? Do I need to join you or do I need to, pursue this opportunity? What would you advise me?" I said, "Pursue that opportunity," right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the right thing for me to tell her.
Yeah, suggest. Mm-hmm.
But the husband jumped in and he said, "Hey, your opportunity seems pretty interesting. I'm a little bored with whatever I'm doing with my life. Can we talk?" So, one of the first things I did was to send the book. I said, "I'm not willing to talk to you until you get to know me better
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and know what kind of people work here and what kind of work
Mm-hmm.
happens here." So,
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous, Brilliant, Lovable is for the external world. We also put out another book called Yell Love. I'd like you to, to go over that book. Yell Love is more of a culture book where we've defined the
Mm-hmm.
culture of our organization. I said,
Mm-hmm.
this is what Arun and I expect out of people. So my conversation with him started only when he finished reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
There are opportunities in Dubai currently, for example, where I'm talking to a few people. So there was one girl to whom I sent the book, potential partner material, and she wrote back to me. She said, "Yeah, I got ChatGPT to summarize your book, and very interesting, very nice journey. You've done a fantastic job." I just ended the conversation right there.
Mm.
Reason is, that if you can't, I made life easier for you by making it a 45-minute read,
Mm-hmm.
added photos, right? And I believe it's an interesting read. And there are many people who have come back and written to me and said, it's an interesting read. Now, if you can't take that time to invest in getting a relationship started, it just doesn't make sense for me to pursue that opportunity. So it acts as a good filter today.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's an interesting way to put it?
Yes. You,
So I'm just
you
sorry, you were
save so
saying
much
something.
time after you've made a
You know,
hire, right? uh,
I think it also shows that how much they're valuing it this opportunity as well,
yes,
because they are investing that much time in reading
yes,
the material that you have provided them.
yes.
So, following to that, I'm just curious to know that if I have to, what values that you have picked up from your company and the school, and you have to bring it together and summarize it. What would that be?
More than values, can I say my lessons in the
Yeah.
last 20, 25 years? um, Lesson one: can we learn to be original and authentic?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If I can break down both the concepts so that people understand what I mean by original, being original or being authentic means.
Mhm.
Start wearing your flaws and be comfortable with them. And tell
Yeah.
people. So early on in my life, I don't know where I picked it up from. So I got very comfortable telling people that I don't know. So initially, when we started, our clients would come back and say, "Hey, by the way, can you fix this website for me? I have this problem." I'll say, "Stop. I am not a engineer. I have
Mhm.
no competence over this. Hold
Mhm.
your questions. I will put
Mhm.
you in touch with the right person who can solve
Mhm.
your problem." Right? And guess what? Even today, I do the same thing. Clients may be different, but my dialogues, the words that I use are the same. So start telling people that you don't know. We don't need, we're not walking talking Wikipedias, we're not walking talking Googles, right? uh, we don't need to have all the answers for all the questions. So you need to start wearing your I don't knows a lot more clearly, right? That is very important. Staying authentic and original. This
Mhm.
came very easily for us because both Deepa and I have not listened to
Mhm.
our parents. We have not done things that our society wanted us to do. We've not listened to our elders. We've done things ourselves, but all in a good way, good sense. We've not hurt people, right? So it came
Yeah.
very easily for us. And so, can you start being as authentic as you can be?
Hmm.
Can you tell
Mhm.
people what truly the situation is? Uh, Tell them whether you can afford to pay them or not. Okay, upfront. Tell them whether you have the
Mhm.
skills to pursue a mandate that you can deliver or not upfront. Uh,
Mhm.
um, Simple
Mhm.
things like these, I think, added over a period of time, adds to your character. That is
Yeah.
important.
Mhm.
So, being authentic and being original is one big takeaway from my life. The second is communication. I have a small
Mm-hmm.
detour, and then we'll come back to this. Um when I was,
Mhm.
and Inayat, since you're a life coach, I did tell
Mhm.
Priyanka that I want to highlight this part. Um, 10th standard summer holidays, there was a neighbor of mine. He was, he was literally sitting on my head and saying, "You should attend this workshop. You are anyway, sitting at home playing cricket. Come with me. Let's, spend the weekend together." So just to keep him happy, I went, and along with me, I dragged two of my friends, saying, "If I have to suffer, both of you also suffer. So all three of us can go and attend a workshop."
Okay.
So that is how we started. This was summer 1994, right? And I attended a 2.5 day transformative workshop
Mhm.
called the Communication Workshop by a
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
gentleman called Kichu Krishnan, right?
Mm.
Kichu Krishnan.
Yes.
Okay.
You will not find Kichu online. Kichu is one of my youngest friends. He's in his 20s. And for the last 45 years, he's not only been an entrepreneur, he's been an industrialist, and
Mhm.
he's been passionate about working with people. He's trained several thousands of people.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
I still uh, get coached and mentored by Kichu. We have our Sunday sessions where some of us come together morning 7:30 to 8:30. We all get on a Zoom call, sit and plan our week, right? So Kichu has multiple products. We'll talk about Kichu in a separate conversation. But coming back, I learned the fundamentals of communication, and that is very important. Today,
Mhm.
we're all good in our domain knowledge, but we don't know how to communicate, right? So Kichu didn't teach us the technical side of communication. He didn't teach us how
Mhm.
to attend an interview or how to put out a resume. No, it was a much more deeper. It had to do with your personality. It had to do with pursuing your true north, if I can say that, right? So it was a lot more deeper. But communication was another big takeaway for us. Point number three: relationships matter.
Mhm.
In a world where today we can easily block somebody on WhatsApp or on Instagram or whatever it is, uh, uh, it goes a long way to just keep in touch with people. Um, I stay in touch with Priyanka and vice versa. She's not given me business in years together. Doesn't mean that I should stop talking to her, right?
Mhm.
But today we deal with it.
Connected.
You
Mhm.
don't give me business, you're a nobody to me.
Mm.
Unfortunate. That's how many of us are myopic about human relationships and human connections, right? So relationships matter, and uh, there is a reason why they say, your network is your net worth. Again, I am terrible
Yeah.
at networking per se. You will never find me attending a BNI interview, meeting, or a Rotary meeting,
Mm-hmm.
or a roundtable
Mm-hmm.
meeting. But I've genuinely been in touch with people. If not anything else, I mean, we'll share hi and bye. Like, I remember once Priyanka sending me some 2 kilos of cashew nuts, right, from her farm, and she said, "Do you want to buy? I've got this." I said, "Yeah, chalo, send it to me." When it landed, I was like, "What will I do?" Deepa was like, "So much of cashew nuts." Another thing that they all emptied it in no time. But yeah, you stay in touch with people. Nothing harm happens, right? And it doesn't cost you anything. So start valuing people. Um, Lastly, be a learner, be a student
Yeah.
always. Even
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, I was reading something. You don't have to go through again. Everything today is glamorized. Either you sign up with Udemy or a Coursera. I read something on the internet about a Google engineer coming up with a new framework for getting things done. I was inquisitive. I was curious to know more about it. So I was learning. So
Mm-hmm.
you remain a student for life, forever.
Hmm.
Because there is something innocent about being a learner. And if you take away that innocence, I think we lose a lot of things in life. So if you want to keep that innocence active and alive, you
Mm-hmm.
stay a student, you stay a learner. You always have a teacher also by your side. So even today, if I have a problem 35 years on, I will still call Kichu and say, Kichu, I have this problem. How do you think I should solve? Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
he is 3 decades ahead of me, and he's
Mm-hmm.
gone through several more experiences. It only makes sense for me to not repeat the mistakes and just pick up the phone and ask him, how do you think you would have handled it? And to me, his perspective matters, right?
Yeah.
So that
Mm-hmm.
is one
Mm-hmm.
one very intelligent way of you not making mistakes in the first place. Many of us don't get it. So that is how I would like to summarize my learnings, my lessons.
So I'm just curious to know, as you said that you met him at very early stage in your life, right? How has that, you told about your lessons, you talked about it, but if I may ask, how does that shape you as a person? Because when I'm having this conversation with you, you come across as a great entrepreneur with, a forward mindset. And you don't come across as a person who stick on to those thoughts and hold on to it and come for solutions, because you also mentioned that you need to solve a problem. Otherwise, that problem is not solved.
Correct.
So having all these mindsets, getting introduced to Kichu at an early stage in life, how has that impacted you in this journey of being the person you are and the growth mindset that you have and the leader that you are today?
I will attribute that to 95% of my life.
Wow.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and the sooner we all get ourselves um, a you can put whatever word you want, a coach, a guide, a mentor, a philosopher, whatever it is. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have uh, a person who is never going to be judgmental about you and your situation? Hold on to
Mm-hmm.
that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, Kichu doesn't give me answers, right? And I'm happy, Inayat, given that you're doing something in a similar space. I will only
Mm-hmm.
be happy for both of you to meet. Okay, you will find a new teacher in him. Uh, he doesn't give me answers. He doesn't make my life easier. If at all anything, he'll question me back and he'll make my life even more miserable with more choices. But that's up to me as a student.
Well,
I have
that's what
to.
coaches do.
Yes, I have to go through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, my biggest takeaway is that it's not just Kichu. Like Kichu, there are many people with who have had a massive impact in the way I live my life. Um, One is my own client. He's no longer a client, but he's a great friend now. When he
Mm-hmm.
started his company, one big takeaway, one simple takeaway was he never had a secretary. He never had someone book his flight tickets. He would book his own flight tickets. He would book his own rooms. And guess what? He'll book the cheapest ticket. He's the owner of a company, and he'll book oh, I'm going to Bombay. And one conversation with him, I said, so typically what is the room rate? I will stay in this particular area in Bombay because room rates there don't go beyond 3,000 rupees. So that is how I learned humility. It didn't come to me easily. To
Mm-hmm.
me, until I met these people, I had my own philosophies of
Hmm.
wanting to drive a big car and staying in the finest places. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized that there are people who run large organizations who are also humble, and
Mm-hmm.
they stay true to their work more than their lifestyle. In Sanskrit, there's a beautiful word called karma yogis. So if at all
Karma yogi.
I
Mm-hmm.
have been fortunate to meet many karma yogis who
Hmm.
have inspired me to pursue my own journey of being a karma yogi,
Mm-hmm.
where you just focus on putting in the effort, right? Consequences is not in your hands, but effort is in your hands. So, yeah, not just Kichu, but Kichu has been a great influence in my life.
Wow, I think you've just stated how impactful a guide, a coach, a mentor can be in somebody's life, to have that kind of transition. Because I can just only imagine, I cannot feel it, but the things that you must have gone through as a child, it must be so frustrating, not people not understanding what you're going through and embracing it at a later age and understanding that that's actually your true power, and coming out only stronger and better.
Yes, yes,
And as you
absolutely.
said, keep learning always and be a student and keep the innocence alive.
Yes,
I think moving on, we just have some few fun questions for you.
Yeah.
Priyanka, would you want to take the lead for this?
Sure, sure, sure. So we thought, like, one thing, my takeaway from this entire episode is for sure, uh, you know, asking out for help, seeking for help whenever it is required. I also have had a very small incident where coaching helped me, and luckily, thanks to Changepreneurs podcast, I am in a group of coaches around me, right? There are plenty of them, plethora of them.
yes,
So, yeah, so I think rest of the things I definitely heard, right? Be original, be authentic. I believe in that myself, and also be choosy, right? Learn to say no. I don't know is
Mm,
also very important. And that time I recollected again a dialogue from the movie Will Smith from Pursuit of Happiness. The last, remember like when he goes for the interview,
yeah.
he comes out of the prison and he's in that paint all over his body, and then he says, if I don't know
Mhm.
something, I'll say I don't know, but I'll take an effort to learn and come
Learn
back to
about it. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it is going to stay with me for sure. And as Inayat rightly pointed out, let's go through some fun, quick, rapid fire questions. Are you ready for it,
done,
Arvind? All in?
done, all in.
All right, let's go for it then. Not many, very few questions. So we'll go very rapidly on this, okay? Design first or strategy first?
Neither. Context first.
Sorry? Uh,
Context first.
Context first. All right, great. Last book you gifted someone?
I'm sorry.
Last book you gifted someone.
It's a very brilliant book. It's called The Visual MBA. So
Wow,
I gifted it to a colleague of mine a couple of days ago.
lovely.
The book is visual, MBA simplified. So I'm a visual learner. So I found the book interesting. And so anyone who's not done an MBA, this book sets things in. It's like a kindergarten book. So it's fun
I
to
would
read.
love to read it. You should actually
I'll give it to you.
recommend more books to me as well, right? I fall in the same category of yours. I also get bored very easily while reading.
Yes.
All right, coming back to the next question. One client you would love to work with someday.
Ah, if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have had 100 names to put out. But
Okay.
today, where I am,
Hmm.
I can tell you with a lot of pride and humility both
Hmm.
that I don't have any such aspirations,
Okay.
because every client is an opportunity for me to make a difference. So, as much as my younger self would have jumped and said, I would love to, be the marketing head for a Under Armour brand or a Nike brand.
Hmm.
Today, no, even if you're a nobody and if you want to go somewhere, I will help you. It's like a doctor, right? A doctor
Hmm.
doesn't differentiate between one patient and another. Doctors, I don't know, but doctors, do they even have a aspiring patient, right? So Similarly, uh, there are no aspirational brands that we have.
Okay,
Every brand, every opportunity is for us to make a difference.
good. If FBL were a movie, what would its title be? You have to
Apple is
answer this.
lovable.
Good one. Good one. Any particular favorite song of yours, to get into work mode?
Plenty, but more than songs, I think as you grow up in life, there are lyrics that you start loving more than the music, right?
Wow.
Mhm.
So uh, I'm a hardcore Pink Floyd fan, and if I have to get into a particular groove or a mindset, there is one album that I've been listening for the last 30 odd years, almost 30 years, ever since it was released, again and again and again. The last I listened to it was last night. It's
Okay.
called It Is Well by Pink Floyd. It was their last but one album. It just, every time I listen to it, it's the first time I've listened to it. So, yeah.
Interesting. One word your team would describe you.
That's challenging. I'm sure there is no one word, there will be many words. Uh, Maybe I can think of superlatives, adjectives going with the word tough.
Oh, okay. Um, let's say if last question, right? If not marketing or educator, what field you would be in?
Performing arts.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think with that, I will hand over it to Inayat for a quick closing session. Over to you, Inayat.
Definitely. Thank you, Arvind. Thank you so much for all the entertaining answers and giving a doctor analogy. That was very funny.
Yeah,
And thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Priyanka, for inviting Arvind, and we got to hear his amazing story and touch upon the topics we usually don't discuss about, and being so open and honest and, if I may say, vulnerable with us and to our listeners as well. With this, we close our episode. This is another episode from Changepreneurs. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So please subscribe, share, and get inspired. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
thank you
so much
so
for,
much. Thanks, Arvind. Thanks, Inayat.
thank you.